Over the years, WWE has been responsible for creating some of the most memorable and influential teams in the history of the sport. Groups that have cemented themselves in the fans' collective memory as true powerhouses. But, as with any journey, not everything is a victory. Some of these alliances, however promising they seemed, ended up becoming major disappointments, dragging promising talents to rock bottom and delivering moments everyone would rather forget. Get ready for a journey through the stables that, far from bringing glory, became true failures. But first, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of the amazing videos we'll be releasing. League of Nations. 4 international superstars, each with their own unique talent and style, coming together to form the feared League of Nations. At first glance, Sheamus, Rusev, Wade Barrett, and Alberto Del Rio together promise to be a real powerhouse, ready to shake up the WWE universe with a strong anti-American wave, a concept that could ignite the crowd. But what actually happened? Like one of those poorly decorated rooms where one item doesn't match the rest, the faction ended up being more of a confusing setup than a threatening force. A partnership of an Englishman, an Irishman, a Bulgarian, and a Mexican seemed to have been created just to support the big project of elevating Roman Reigns to the top. What could have been an international villainous powerhouse ironically turned into a series of missteps that slowly undermined each member's impact. And the biggest problem? Without a solid purpose and with an inconsistent creative direction, the League of Nations lost credibility, and the crowd quickly lost interest. The result? Frustration for the wrestlers and disillusionment for the fans. Only Sheamus, the Celtic warrior, was able to truly rise again after this chapter in WWE. The Cabinet. Imagine JBL's journey, a man who spent most of his career being seen as a mid-carder, always stuck between stardom and obscurity. When WWE positioned him as the top villain in 2004, he needed more than just a bad guy attitude. He needed a true cabinet of allies to give strength to his reign. And thus, the Cabinet was born, a faction designed to solidify JBL's name among the top villains. The premise was intriguing. JBL took the lead with a team ready to protect his position. Orlando Jordan as Chief of Staff, the Basham brothers as the Co-Secretaries of Defense, and Amy Weber, who was supposed to add a touch of refinement as an image consultant. In theory, they existed to be shields and obstacles that heroes would have to overcome to reach the champion. In practice, however, the Cabinet not only failed to elevate JBL, but also became the target of disinterest. Orlando, Danny, and Amy never managed to win the crowd's heart or hatred, and the faction segments rarely held the audience's attention. With little impact and no significant victories, the faction began to crumble. Amy Weber left after a few months, and the Bashams followed suit, abandoning the Cabinet. When only JBL and Orlando remained, Jillian Hall was briefly added, but even that couldn't save the concept. The truth is, by the end, the Cabinet only reinforced that JBL was a lone villain, a mid-carder with a court that was never worthy of a true monarch. The Mean Street Posse, a group of tough guys from Greenwich, Connecticut, dressed in immaculate sweaters and dress pants, ready to take on the ring. The idea of a group of Shane McMahon's friends from the dangerous streets of one of the wealthiest areas in the country sounded fun, and of course, ironic. However, the Posse wasn't just a facade. 2 of the members, Pete Gas and Rodney, were actual buddies of Shane, while Joey Abs, the 3rd member, was the only one who actually knew how to fight. Originally larger, the group was eventually reduced to these 3 elite rebels, used strategically behind the scenes and as allies of Shane, interfering in matches when he needed them. But the lack of training was obvious. Their performances in the ring were a clumsy mix that quickly wore thin. Without Shane to protect them, they went from being untouchables to WWE punching bags, frequently involved in hardcore matches where chaos was almost guaranteed. WWE soon gave up on seeing them as potential stars, relegating them to developmental territory in 2000, from which they never returned. The Mexicools. Theoretically, it was the kind of idea that could only succeed. Juventud Guerrera, Super Crazy, and Psychosis, 3 lightweights with incredible skills, united to create chaos in the ring. But WWE's controversial decision to have them enter as lawnmowers made the audience question the intentions behind the group, exposing an uncomfortable and, for many, offensive stereotype. The initial impact was intense, with the trio invading matches and attacking opponents, creating an aura of rebellion that seemed destined to catch fire. However, that flame quickly began to fade. A poorly executed move by Juventud, a 450 splash that ended up injuring Paul London, led Vince McMahon to ban the move and other high-risk maneuvers, limiting one of the Mexicools' key weapons. From there, the matches lost the spark the audience had expected. And while Guerrero won the Cruiserweight title, his erratic behavior outside the ring ultimately cost him his job. With Juventud's departure, Crazy and Psychosis tried to carry on the duo's legacy, but the team, which promised to revolutionize the Cruiserweight style, was marked by missteps and controversial decisions that prevented it from reaching its peak. The Truth Commission. What if you could create the perfect stable in WWE? Imagine this: Bull Buchanan, a member of the Oddities, and the master manipulator Don Callis as the manager. Now picture this as the Truth Commission, a faction that seemed poised to dominate but ultimately sank into a spiral of mediocrity. So, what went wrong? Born from a USWA territory, the Truth Commission had a brief run in WWE in 1997 during the controversial Gang Wars. When they first appeared, the group seemed promising, with endless matches against other factions like the Nation of Domination, DOA, and Los Boricuas. However, instead of generating epic rivalries, the Truth Commission lost itself in the limbo of irrelevance. The focus: to transform Kurgan into a monstrous villain. But while he got all the attention, the other members of the group were basically there to serve as punching bags, dressed in green shirts and red hats, with nothing interesting to offer. The matches? Boring. The storylines? Almost non-existent. And when the Truth Commission broke up, no one missed them. They vanished like a spark that never caught fire, forgotten by all, leaving behind only the question of what could have been a legendary stable. The Social Outcasts. Stables in wrestling often emerge with the promise of revitalizing the careers of stagnant wrestlers, offering them a chance to shine together. However, there are times when it becomes nothing more than a directionless, soulless act, and the stable ends up being a disjointed effort that adds little to their careers. And that's exactly what happened with the Social Outcasts. In the first Raw of 2016, Heath Slater tried to salvage his career by forming an unusual coalition with Bo Dallas, Curtis Axel, and Adam Rose. Each member had tasted the bitter sting of failure or career interruptions, and together, they dreamed of reclaiming the spotlight that had long since forgotten them. The goal? The success that always seemed just out of reach. The result? Well, we can at least say they got the t-shirts and the hashtag, so something was achieved, right? However, don't be fooled. The Social Outcasts never managed to stick as a memorable stable. They started as heels, transitioned to babyfaces, and somehow disappeared just as quickly as they appeared. Adam Rose's suspension and eventual release marked the beginning of the end for a group that never truly took off. If there was hope that this would elevate the members involved, it faded over time. At least we'll always have the rap battle with Flo Rida. That moment was so hot it almost set my dizzle on fire. Pretty Mean Sisters. Get ready for a deep dive into some of the biggest storyline blunders in WWE history, or even the most absurd ideas turned into some of the most unintentional comedies in wrestling lore. If you thought the Mean Street Posse was a stable failure, it's time to meet the real disaster of the 90s, the PMS group, Pretty Mean Sisters. Formed by Terry Runnels, Jacqueline, and briefly Ryan Shamrock, PMS was a bizarre concept that poked fun at one of society's biggest taboos, premenstrual stress. With Vince Russo at the helm, who else could it be? The idea came from someone who clearly had no idea how to handle femininity in wrestling. What started as a simple reference to a female cliche turned into a series of stories that defied any sense of good taste. From a fake pregnancy, of course, Terry Runnels, to a potential incestuous romance between the Shamrocks, thankfully rejected by Ken Shamrock, to a situation where Sean Meat Stasiak found himself treated as a love slave, beaten, humiliated, and forced to kiss the feet of his mistresses. Sounds surreal, right? But PMS not only left its mark on the Attitude Era with disastrous storylines, but also highlighted what may have been one of the most embarrassing representations of women in WWE. The saga of PMS reminds us that no matter how times change, some stories remain as infamous as those they tried to force on the fans. In the end, the group had a conclusion worthy of a bad soap opera. Jacqueline got tired of seeing Terry mistreating Mate, and the stable was finally disbanded for good. The Corre. The Nexus started as a promising idea that could have changed the course of WWE, beginning with an explosive impact and delivering memorable moments for television, at least in the beginning. Imagine if the direction had been right. This group could have become one of the greatest stables of all time, with its main members easily reaching the top of the main events and leaving their mark in the Hall of Fame. But what seemed like a brilliant plan soon turned into a disaster. Nexus suffered from poor decisions, and its shine quickly faded after just a few months of bad planning. The twist came when CM Punk took over, transforming the group into the new Nexus. What seemed like an opportunity for a fresh start, however, quickly fell into mediocrity. Meanwhile, the excluded members, like Wade Barrett, Heath Slater, and Justin Gabriel, teamed up with former ECW champion Ezekiel Jackson to form the Corre, a name with an air of seriousness, that forced attempt to add respect with 2 R's. It seemed like they had something planned, but when you look at the concept, it's clear it was improvised, as if it had been scribbled on a fast food napkin and handed to the members minutes before their first promo together. The irony is that, even with this rushed storyline, the Corre managed to capture the Intercontinental and Tag Team titles, which could have been a milestone. But the true impact of this group became clear when, at WrestleMania 27, they were defeated in just 90 seconds. A fatal blow to the legacy of a group that started with so much potential, but ended up being tossed into oblivion, like one of those dreams that could have been brilliant but got lost along the way. The Union. WWE, with its backstage full of unexpected alliances, has given us some epic moments, but perhaps none as intriguing as the alliance you can hardly believe happened in 1999. In May of that year, Mankind, Big Show, Ken Shamrock, and Test formed a group as improbable as it was explosive. The union of people you ought to respect. This quartet of wrestlers came together in a fierce response to the growing influence of Shane McMahon's corporation, which was dominating WWE with its cruelty and power. Their union wasn't just an alliance, it was a declaration of war. But the story doesn't stop there. The Upures teamed up with other wrestling giants, Mr. McMahon, Steve Austin, The Rock, and Commissioner Shawn Michaels, in a battle of titanic proportions against the corporate ministry, an even more menacing faction led by the feared Undertaker, who had now joined Shane's team. The climax of this rivalry came in an 8-on-8 elimination match at Over the Edge, where the Union, led by Mankind, emerged victorious in a shocking turn of events. However, as with every great WWE story, the plot took an unexpected twist. The alliance quickly dissolved after Mankind's surgery, and even more shockingly, the revelation of Vince McMahon as the true villain behind the entire scheme, the dreaded higher power. Though short-lived, the story of the Upures left a legacy of intrigue, betrayal, and surprises that continue to resonate in the minds of fans to this day. Retribution. The pandemic brought an unprecedented period of challenges for WWE, forcing the company to move forward with its events despite the absence of the vibrant energy of a live audience and key talent. This, of course, led to some creative choices. Well, let's say at the very least, curious. Among them was the creation of Retribution, a stable that tried to capture the revolutionary spirit of groups like Nexus, but unfortunately fell short of the expectations of any wrestling fan. Retribution, like Nexus before them, was dissatisfied with the WWE system, with a burning desire to destroy it from within, causing chaos and random attacks. The problem? Absolutely nothing about them seemed right. From the bizarre outfits to the ridiculous names, like Slapjack, yes, you read that right, one of the members' names, which, to be honest, sounds more like the punchline of an inside joke than something that would make you fear a WWE villain. And their motivation? Weak. Everything felt forced, so disconnected and purposeless. WWE, as well as the members of Retribution, including Ali, Mace, T-Bar, Reckoning, Retaliation, and the infamous Slapjack, must be relieved that this disaster unfolded during a time without an audience. Because if it had happened in front of a packed arena, the crowd's reaction would have been a total fiasco. But maybe it was this lack of spectators that saved Retribution from being the true failure it could have been. Because In a normal scenario, what could have been an explosive revolutionary moment turned into just an uncomfortable memory of an era we hope to forget. Which WWE stable do you think was the biggest failure? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the like button and share it with your friends. See you in the next one.